First story. OP's cheating father neglected OP and allowed his new wife's daughter to bully OP and made her a scapegoat in his house. So OP's stepdad adopted her, and her biological dad just cut ties with OP. Now, after 4 years, biological dad is contacting OP to reconcile as his wife divorced him and has no one. Backstory. My sister's 19 and my F21 mother and biological father divorced when I was about 3 or 4 years old due to my biological dad being abusive and cheating on our mother. We lived with our mom and visited our dad's house once every few weeks for the weekend. Of course, it was super cool there since we barely had any rules or restrictions, and thus, we could do pretty much whatever we wanted. Back then, I obviously didn't know what was going on, so I still loved my father and idolized him a bit. However, supposedly due to the abuse and divorce I subconsciously witnessed, I went through years of having anger issues and issues with respecting other children's boundaries. Both my mother and biological father remarried new partners about 2 years later, and my sister and I lived with our mother and stepdad. While the experiences in our household are a whole different story, our stepdad was generally caring well for us, supporting us financially early on in their relationship, and never pushing to replace our father. We grew attached quickly though and didn't hesitate to call him Dad for long, especially since our mother and him married soon after. Our biological father had never been okay with that calling him, and seeing him as our dad too and straight up guilt-tripped us, as mere kids, into having a double life calling our stepdad by his real name when we visited and Dad only at home. He would act super disappointed and upset when we accidentally slipped up. It didn't take too long for us to consider adoption after our stepdad had been acting as our dad for a few years at this point and acknowledging him as such. Our biological father was infuriated and quickly brushed it off. He would never allow it. Mind you, at this point he had been married to our stepmom for a few years as well, who has a daughter from a previous marriage too, and had been NC with her biological father. So adopting her as his daughter was on the table, and they went through with it. Talking about double standards. We let it rest for then, as we were kids, didn't understand the impact, and probably felt guilty for hurting our father's ego. As the years passed, and we visited every few weeks, a few things happened there that slowly drifted us apart. Our biological father didn't seem to care much about whether or not we were there, barely using the time effectively by spending it with us, rather than just occupying us with the TV or PC, or by playing with each other. Our stepmom and him had 2 kids with each other in the meantime. One of these siblings, our younger sister, grew up to be a little brat, trying to steal our things while we were there and generally provoking us. For example, banging at the door in the morning or entering the room and jumping onto me when teenage me had been up until 4 a.m. No, that wasn't just typical child behavior. It was intentional and funny to her. Our biological father barely did anything to de-escalate situations like that or fights between us. If anything, he'd choose one of us to be the scapegoat and blame it on them. When my sister was about 12 or 13, she stopped visiting there as she suffered the most from being provoked by our younger sister, crying at least once every time we visited, and being used as the scapegoat most of the time, even though she rarely was in the wrong. She would simply react to the behavior towards her and be framed as the one escalating the situation. I still went there, even though I had learned about my biological dad's bad behavior and habits, and was aware of how little he actually paid attention to us. 1. He was still family, and 2. He was good at keeping me close to him by acting proud of me and bragging with me as I had good grades, and was generally very responsible most of the time and smart. He showed off my accomplishments as a way to show what a good dad he had been despite never helping me with homework, giving me money for school trips, visiting school events, paying for hobbies, etc. All of that was done by the parents I lived with. When my boyfriend and I started dating, I spent every weekend at his and his parents' house, so I unintentionally stopped visiting my biological dad. We kept in touch on occasion, but when I turned 17, the topic of adoption came up again in our family, since adoption as a child versus adoption as an adult comes with very different legal aspects, rights, and obligations. My parents' mom and stepdad, sister, and I talked it through and wanted to go for it. But we had to get our dad's permission, as he had to sign that he waives any rights and obligations between us as a child and parent for the future. I, as a teenager hating phone calls and not having the chance to do it in person due to distance, sent my bio dad a message with our request to be adopted by our stepdad. I gave my reasoning: it's the family I spend most time with, and it gives a feeling of belonging, and emphasized that it would not change our relationship, and I would still like to keep in touch and visit from time to time. He left me on hold for 2 weeks before replying that he would agree to the adoption, but subsequently cut contact with both of us, as he was merely the one who made us then. Obviously, I was very hurt. Despite all his bad behavior, I still valued him as part of my life and family. And he took all the control and opportunity from me to see him, my stepmother, and my siblings there. Well, no turning back now, and the adoption went through. Contact was cut. Only our stepmom messaged us on birthdays and Christmas, and that was it. Fast forward 4 years. 2 days ago, my biological father messaged me on social media out of nowhere. We literally haven't spoken in 4 years, and he simply messaged me. It's worth mentioning that our stepmother and he broke up in the meantime. I'm pretty sure his message is out of desperation because he has lost everyone in this family since we last spoke, and he tries to salvage anything he can. I went back and forth about whether I even wanted to open the message at all. But I was pretty sure I at least needed to know what he wrote in some way to get peace of mind. I'm incredibly curious and compulsive with stuff like that. Today, I hung out with close friends and asked them if they'd be okay with reading the message for me and just summing it up for me if it wasn't too bad. I instructed them to delete the message after reading it and before telling me what it said. They agreed. So yeah, he basically said I have grown to be a beautiful young woman with a good education and job. And he's proud I'm living with my boyfriend now, and that he hopes I'm well. I don't know if I'm really glad I know what it said, but I know I can never just get back in touch with him after all this. Not only was it incredibly immature and egoistic of him to just cut his 17 and 15-year-old daughters out of his life for a request like that, but it took 4 years and a divorce to realize it could have gone differently. Also, what does he expect? Our relationship will never be anything close to what it had been before. It will never be father and daughter ever again. I don't know if I could even be so much friends with him. And just like with every acquaintance, sometimes keeping in touch, just for the sake of keeping in touch, doesn't lead anywhere. Nor does it feel genuine or good. I have made the decision to not reply to his message, or to message him by myself at any time in the future. Not even if he told me he was terminally ill would it change this fact. Nor if he told me he was sorry, which he didn't do in his message either, mind you. You cannot cut someone out of your life and just expect them to come back again when it's convenient for you, or when you have no one else to be close to anymore. I don't feel bad. Just sad things had to go this way. And a bit of all this drama that I had been past by now has been brought back up now. I hope to be able to go to sleep peacefully tonight. Second story. My entitled best friend's fiancé accused me of having an affair with her fiancé, knowing I have a boyfriend, then uninvited me from the wedding and called me a W after seeing the dress I bought for the wedding. So, my best friend called off the wedding. Later, his ex-fiancé contacted me and wanted to talk. This happened over the weekend, but there's still so much tension. One of my good friends, Matthew 26M, is getting married next month to Jennifer 26F. I 25F have known Matthew since high school. We've both connected when it comes to video games, especially Minecraft. Matthew has had his fair share of girlfriends over the years, but when he met Jennifer 3 years ago, he said that he knew she was the one, and they are madly in love with each other, and I am so happy for them both. Last year, Matthew popped the question at Jennifer, and she said yes. Jennifer's demeanor towards me drastically changed after the engagement. She was distant towards me. She wouldn't look at me, and she would hardly speak to me, which was weird since Jennifer was always so sweet and nice towards me. I'd still talk to Matthew and meet with him and our group of friends, sometimes with Jennifer, and she would still act cold and not speak to me much. I kept my distance from Jennifer. 3 months ago, we all received a save-the-date invitation, and their wedding is going to take place at Matthew's cabin, which is 2 hours away. They were going to keep it small due to the size of the cabin, so we were only allowed to bring one guest. That was when Jennifer acted extremely harsh and hostile towards me and said, "Bet you don't have a +1 since you are so into my man." I was taken aback. I asked her what the F she was talking about, and she smirked and said I knew, and to not act stupid. I ignored her remark and told her my boyfriend was coming. She looked surprised and left. I of course told Matthew about what Jennifer said to me, and he was not happy, so he made her apologize to me. Then, last weekend, I was invited by Matthew's sister to go dress shopping with her and Jennifer. I declined at first because I wanted to keep my distance from Jennifer, but Matthew's sister assured me that she would deal with Jennifer and that our other friends would be there with us. So we went dress shopping, and I found a beautiful dress that I thought would be perfect. And I took a picture to send to my boyfriend since he planned on matching it, i.e., with a bow tie with me. I tried the dress on, and it was a perfect fit, so I guess I got lucky. Jennifer was angry and called me names such as a W, a boyfriend stealing a B, and that I was officially uninvited to the wedding. She caused such a commotion that the employee of the store asked us to leave. I told Jennifer I didn't want to come to the wedding anyway, but I was going to because my friend was getting married. I told her if she didn't want me at the wedding, fine. I don't give a F since I won't go to a wedding if the bride is going to be so rude to a guest. Matthew and our friends found out, and I was getting texts left and right begging me to just come to the wedding. I told them I was happy to get uninvited, and that I'd just spend the day with my boyfriend on the day of the wedding instead. They're all mad at me for not fighting hard enough. Aita. Edit. So my decision is final. I will not be going to the wedding, and there's no changing my mind about it. I will be sending a wedding gift to Matthew the day prior to the wedding instead. I told Matthew and all my friends that I wouldn't be going, and they couldn't convince me otherwise. Matthew also called me and asked if we could talk somewhere. I agreed, but it's to tell him in person that I won't go, so that way he knows I'm serious about that. Update. I met up with Matthew and brought my boyfriend along. Of course, he begged me to come to the wedding, and he said he would beg Jennifer to let me attend. I told him it'd be best if I wasn't there. I told Matthew that Jennifer has a problem with me. Period. He said he didn't understand, and he did ask her many times, but Jennifer would continue to say she was just stressed. I got angry and said, that's bullshit, and he knows that. My boyfriend also intervened and said to Matthew that he needs to wake up and realize Jennifer is crazy, and he can't keep defending her. Matthew said he loves her too much and doesn't want to lose her. My boyfriend and I got up and told Matthew to let us know when he had a backbone. In the meantime, it's best we don't talk. I messaged all of our friends in the group to let them know I'm keeping a distance from Matthew because of Jennifer. He's still my friend, but at arm's length. I will still be sending him a gift regardless, but I'm keeping my distance from Matthew. It seems like he is in denial and can't comprehend what's going on at all. He is usually in denial. Ever since high school, he has had a sense of denial. Another thing to mention is that Jennifer is nice to all of Matthew's female friends. Just not with me. I've also gotten a message from 2 of our friends saying they have dropped out of attending the wedding because of Jennifer, and that they are on my side. Edit 2. Jennifer bought her wedding dress a while ago. When I went dress shopping with Matthew's sister, she invited Jennifer as a way to resolve this animosity she had towards me. So it was Matthew's sister who wanted to buy a dress, and I found a dress that I loved, and Jennifer went crazy. I hope that clears things up since so many were confused. Update. In her profile. I will be posting an update here because, frankly, I do not have the time to edit or shorten up the post. I exceeded my character limit, and there was a whole lot going on that I did not want to leave out. So I will be copying the post here. Hello to all. A lot of you have been asking me for an update, so I might as well make one. Before I do that, I want to clear up a couple things that a lot of people have been confused about. 1. When I went dress shopping with Matthew's sister, she brought Jennifer along because she wanted us to put our differences aside for Matthew's sake. This shopping trip was not for Jennifer to buy a wedding dress, as she had already purchased her dress a long time ago. I hope that clears things up. I would never try on a dress or purchase one if the bride is the one who is shopping for one. That's an obvious rule. Lol. 2. Matthew and I never had romantic feelings for each other. We never hooked up or anything of that nature. Our relationship has always been, and will always be, platonic. I'm going to go straight to the point with this update. This is going to come as a shock to a lot of you, but Jennifer called off the wedding. I found out from our friends who messaged me. I asked what happened, and they explained that Jennifer told Matthew she couldn't marry him, and admitted that her behavior towards me as well as towards a couple of other people, which includes Matthew's sister and his best friend Jacob, was wrong. She apologized to Matthew and realized that she wasn't in the right place to get married. This happened about 2 days before the wedding. I decided to call Matthew, and I told him I heard about the wedding being called off and assured him I'd be here if he ever wanted to talk. He asked if we could meet, and I agreed. Matthew explained that Jennifer had severe trust issues, not just with me, but with his best friend Jacob. Jacob was supposed to be Matthew's best man, but he was also uninvited by Jennifer over the fact that Jacob might encourage Matthew to cheat. Matthew also told me that Jennifer has constantly accused Matthew of possibly cheating on her with me, despite showing her evidence that we did nothing of the sort. It had gotten to the point where Jennifer would prevent Matthew from going out with friends. She would sometimes confiscate his phone, and she had even taken his car keys, causing him to be late for work. So there was a lot more happening behind closed doors. Matthew wasn't blinded by love. He was simply afraid to reach out to any of us for help. He was embarrassed to tell us that his bride-to-be was doing more than just controlling the wedding guest list. I asked Matthew if he wanted to go with us on vacation. but he declined, stating he wanted to be alone, which I do understand. I went on vacation, and I had a fun time. BTW, I did wear the dress that I bought and wore to dinner with my boyfriend. He loved the dress and had constantly complimented me the entire time. When we returned, Jennifer messaged me, which I was surprised by as she never once did such a thing. She asked me if we could meet. At first, I wasn't sure, but I agreed. I brought my boyfriend along for safety reasons, as I wasn't sure what Jennifer's intentions were with me. Jennifer told me that she wants to apologize for lashing out at me at the store, for calling me names, and for uninviting me to the wedding over something so small. She explained that she allowed her jealousy to get the better of her, and she was so scared of losing Matthew that she ended up doing things that she deeply regrets. Jennifer is going to get therapy and said that she had some trauma in her childhood that lingered into her relationship in ways she didn't expect. She also admitted that she was insecure and found me to be a very beautiful woman. And she was a bit jealous when Matthew and I talked about our hobbies, and that made her feel left out because she isn't into Minecraft or gaming. I told her none of those things matter to me now since she has apologized and admitted that what she did wasn't right, and that I have forgiven her. As for Matthew and I's friendship, we are now back to hanging out and playing games together. Even my boyfriend has been hanging out with Matthew a lot and has gotten closer. I did decide to ask Matthew if he ever did have a crush on me back in the day, and he said he never did, and that he was being honest. Jennifer moved her stuff out. And as for the cabin where the wedding was supposed to take place, Matthew, my boyfriend, myself, and a couple of our other friends will go there this upcoming weekend. I apologize for taking too long. I think posting it on my personal profile rather than on the subreddit is better since I broke the character limit. I'm quite busy, and I know everyone was dying for an update. I would also like to thank everybody who has given me advice on how to handle this situation and my friendship with Matthew. I also had the chance to read some personal stories some of you have sent me, and it breaks my heart. I realized I have such a big support group here, and that's one thing I love about Reddit. Third story. My delusional cousin demanded that I tattoo him on his wedding day, so I told his fiancée about his plan. Now she has called off the wedding, broken up with him, and I'm going to the party she threw at the same place where they were supposed to have their wedding. Throwaway because I'm not sure if my family uses Reddit. So a little about my background. I am a tattoo artist. I've done an apprenticeship in my first year of tattooing. I have worked as a tattoo artist for 4 years now, and I opened a studio recently. Me and my family are invited to a wedding that is taking place in another state. My cousin is marrying, and we got the invitation a few months ago. Time has moved forward, and now the wedding is in a week already. Out of the blue, my cousin, let's call him Matt, texted me with something along the lines of "You're going to tattoo me on my wedding day." I was a bit confused, as I never even thought of bringing my equipment since I also didn't plan a guest spot or anything. Guest spot is a tattoo artist working at another studio for a few days or weeks, mostly in a different area to grow the clientele. I jokingly asked if he had a machine, as I still hoped that he wasn't serious. He then just asked if I don't have one, and that one machine wouldn't take up that much space to take with. I replied that I didn't plan on bringing my equipment, which in fact contains more than just a machine color, hygiene stuff, stencil, that's the purple stuff you put on the skin to then trace the tattoo with actual needles, etc. And that I'm not prepared to tattoo at a wedding, about which I don't know anything layout of the location. Is it inside or outside? And so on. He then said that he had planned on this, and that it would mean a lot to him to both get a tattoo on his wedding day, and that I'd be the one to tattoo him. Remember that this is the first time I'm hearing this. I again tried to explain that I don't feel comfortable with that, and that it's quite short notice as I work until me and my brother fly over to attend the wedding, and a tattoo needs to be designed first, right? He saw my message, but didn't reply anymore. This morning, my mother called, and she was furious. She asked why I couldn't pull my SHT together and just tattoo Matt. I told her what I'd previously told Matt as well, but she didn't want to hear it. She just said it would mean a lot to her and Matt's family if I do that, and that it could be my wedding gift. And then she hung up. I talked to my brother about it, and he just shrugged it off and said, "It would be nice of you, though." I'm unsure what to do now. As I said, I'm not really comfortable with the whole situation, especially because I've never been guest spotting, so I never had to travel, let alone get on a plane with my equipment. But is that just selfish? I mean, it would mean a lot to apparently everyone, and I'm just saying no. Edit. 1. I do have an actual wedding gift already, as they sent out a wish list with their invitations. There was a point that said artwork because they recently moved into a bigger house, and apparently they want random artwork to decorate. I oil painted them. A painting I spent several days on. So I also don't plan to give him a voucher as a gift. 2. Maddie doesn't have any tattoos, as far as I know. 3. I don't know what my mom's problem is with all of this. I think she just wants to keep the peace. Relevant comments. Commenter. If Matt had his heart set on this happening at his wedding, then he should have discussed it with you as soon as possible, not 1 week before. Geez, he knows a tattoo is permanent, right? He wants you to just show up with Kit in an unsterile environment. And what? Just wing out a design on him. No prep, no planning. All on his wedding day? It would have been better if he had contacted you and gotten the tattoo done before the wedding. Then he could have revealed it at the ceremony, all healed, etc. Getting it done on the day for what reason? This just seems silly, as F. But mainly, it is not your problem. He should have given you more notice. That's on him. Maybe offer to do it at your shop after the wedding. Tell them you'll look for inspiration for the design at their wedding, so it can be unique to their day. OP. I especially don't understand why I should tattoo at a wedding since you can't, or shouldn't combine getting tattooed with drinking alcohol. And knowing Matt, there will be plenty of alcohol at this wedding. Commenter. Really? And does that mean you can't drink as well? This would be a hard no for me. OP. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to drink either. But up until now, I haven't even thought of that. Commenter. It's inappropriate of him to expect you to work for free at an event for which you're a guest. Are you even licensed to tattoo in the other state? The entire thing sounds ludicrous. Tell your cousin your hourly rate billed in the PIA rate for hauling your equipment, and he needs to cover your flights and hotel. After all, flying with a trained professional to perform a service costs money. Oh, and he needs to pay up front since this is a special service. OP. I am actually licensed. And I mean, I would ask for money. But apparently they planned this as a wedding gift, like my mom suggested. I can't imagine what they are even thinking. Commenter. They planned this as a wedding gift. From you? 'Cause that's pretty presumptuous, and against some kind of, wedding etiquette. I always thought any mention of gifts by the wedding couple was some kind of faux pas. NTA. OP. Especially since they have an actual list of things they want to be gifted. I mean, there was a point that said artwork. But if they wanted me to tattoo Matt as a gift, they could and should have reached out as they sent out their list. Commenter. And is there a honeymoon happening right after the wedding? If they're going anywhere where swimming is involved, he won't be able to swim with a fresh tattoo. OP. I thought of that too. They are going to Bali. I doubt that he had considered not being able to go swimming or being in the sun at all. Commenter. They're being unreasonable and making things weird for no reason. NTA and I just wouldn't go if they kept being like this. OP. I did think about not attending. It would be sad not to. But this is also very uncomfortable. And I don't think everyone has let go of it by then. Commenter. NTA. But disclaimer. I'm petty. I would find out who the bride is and tell her. This would hijack the wedding. Explain to her, or her mo or mom, that you would need several hours to set up, clean, and do the actual tattoo, that this would take over her whole wedding. Then sit back and watch the SHT Fest. OP. I'm actually not sure if the bride is in on this or not. I'm not close with her at all. Commenter. Does he have any other tattoos, so that he understands how long it could end up taking? He could theoretically want anything at this point. This is such a ridiculous request. OP. I don't think he has any tattoos, and with that, I have no concept of how tattooing actually works. Update. 2 days later. Originally posted on aita. Since my update got banned, I posted another update. So the last few hours have been a lot. First, I called my mom, and wow, she asked me again, this time very friendly, if I wanted to tattoo Maddie at his wedding. And again, I said no, with all the reasons I'd previously given her and some of the very good points you guys had. Before she could say anything else, I added that I felt like she wouldn't take me or tattooing seriously. She didn't say anything for a bit, until she tried to explain that she really thought it wasn't a big deal. I told her again that it is, and that my mom, of all the people, should know how my job works. She agreed and apologized profusely. I then asked her if she'd like to attend and watch me work on a client's appointment. And to my surprise, she said yes. Mom is tagging along tomorrow. Now to Maddie, or rather his bride. I finally got hold of the bride, let's say her name is Becky, and asked her about the request her fiancé confronted me with. She seemed surprised, as she apparently had heard from my aunt that I had made them something for their new house. She assumed it would be a painting since I'm the artist of the family, and it's known that I also paint. I confirmed that. But Maddie has come forward with this out of the blue. and it's not a good idea for many reasons. She agreed with me immediately. I think she does have tattoos. She thanked me for telling her, as no one else did. Becky seemed really mad, but she seemed to pull herself together. I would have lost it. I'm assuming Becky confronted Matt after our call, because only 3 to 4 hours later, I checked the family group chat, and there was a message from Becky. There will be no ceremony on the 13th as Matt, and I decided we aren't getting married. Matt and I have things to figure out, so please text or call us tomorrow if you have questions. For the rest of the day, we'll be in flight mode. After dinner, Becky called me and apologized for Matt again. She said it was a stupid idea of his, and that he just thought it would be cool. She then informed me that she still wants me to fly over for the wedding day, as she will be hosting a party instead of a wedding. Everything is paid for anyway, and she doesn't want anything to go to waste. I asked if they broke up. Not yet, but I'm going to stay at my sister's place until next week. I'm assuming Matt hasn't been too great, but I'm sure I'll hear about it. Apparently my brother and my mom aren't invited. Lol. My call must have been the last straw, but as far as I am concerned, Becky is handling it gracefully. And Matt will be okay too, I'm sure. So I'm going to a party. But did I just make a new friend? Thanks, y'all, for having my back. Relevant comments. Commenter. Lol, I love how mom went a full 180 there. I'm a little shocked the bride canceled the wedding over this one thing. Did she just have no clue her fiancé was as impulsive as he turned out to be? Everything is paid for anyway. Paid, please. This is the worst trend on the internet. OP. I don't think it's the only thing that has happened. But as I said, I'll probably hear about it at the party. And if not from Becky, I'm sure there are some of her friends that like to spill the tea. Update. 4 days later. 6 from the OG post. Welcome back. I'm finally done writing this. Thanks to everyone for coming back and reading this. I appreciate y'all and love that you are enjoying the tea. So because a lot of you wanted to know how the bring your mom to work day was, I picked her up in the morning and we headed to the studio. I showed her around, told her a few background stories about some of the artwork and photos that are hanging on our walls, and explained to her my routine as I prepared everything. My client arrived, and I handled it like I usually would, just with my mom sitting there. I explained every step of the process, and she also asked me questions about my ink, needles, technique, etc. It was a lot of fun having her around, and she really did surprise me with her openness and interest. When I was done with tattooing, my mother had to leave for work, but she thanked and hugged me for bringing her along, as she not only enjoyed spending time with me, but also loved seeing me do my job so professionally, and said that she sees my work and efforts now. To the wedding or party. The party started at 14 as the ceremony was canceled. I arrived and was immediately welcomed by Becky's sister. She hugged me and helped me with my painting. Everyone was outside, drinking and having a small bite already. I went to say hi to Becky, and she hugged me warmly. She seemed tired, but was otherwise fine. Becky was also smiling a lot, which surprised me. I went to mingle, as I didn't want to start off by questioning her. I met a lot of her friends, and apparently most of them weren't too fond of Matt. I heard a few things about how he tried to change Becky to be more like his ex, and stuff like that. Not a great look. Maddie, speaking of, not a single friend or relative of Matt was around. Besides me and one other cousin. Later, as we sat down to eat, I asked if I could join Becky's table. They said yes, so I was sitting with Becky, her sister, and 3 of her friends. I introduced myself to one of them. I hadn't talked to him before, and Becky added that I'm Matt's cousin, the one who was supposed to tattoo. A simultaneous "oh" came from everyone. And with that, the conversation was about Matt from the get-go. I asked what happened. The sister just rolled her eyes and was like, "What didn't?" Becky and friends told me. A while ago, Matt apparently started to pick on Becky for being herself in various ways. It started small, like asking her to change her sports routine from workouts to only running. Then he criticized her cooking as he prefers to eat more meat and more traditionally. They discussed these topics, and it always seemed fine, but he didn't stop. He asked her if she couldn't let her hair grow or get extensions, and speaking of hair, if she couldn't get them bright. Becky has shoulder-long black hair. More and more seemed to pile up until he also started to make comments along the lines of, "Can't you be more like my ex?" As I understand it, he didn't say it specifically, but it was clear he meant it like that. His ex is from Texas. I was shocked. I asked why she didn't break up because of that, but Becky explained that in those situations, it didn't seem as bad as when you list those reasons. She had also made a few changes to make Maddie happy, but continued to do what she wanted most of the time. Time went on. and the issues resurfaced again and again in different ways. The last big fight was only a few weeks ago, when Maddie called Becky by his ex's name. They somehow settled this. So let's skip forward to when I called Becky about the tattoo idea. After our call, she went up to Matt and asked him why he didn't talk to her about it, and why he would just decide to do something like that on their wedding day. He explained that he wanted to surprise her and stuff like that. Becky went on to tell him that this wasn't happening, and that she wanted to be able to enjoy the wedding and their honeymoon. Again, they seemed to agree in the end, and he apologized. But later this almost threw me, as Becky was starting to cook dinner and Matt was sitting at the counter. They talked about tattoos again, apparently a really chill discussion about tattoos in general, and Becky asked him playfully what he intended on getting tattooed. He gestured across his chest and said, "I want my birth date, our wedding date, and your birth date, so insert his BD, 06/13/2024, insert BD. Becky said she went blind for a millisecond. That third date was, in fact, not her birthday. She asked him again, and he repeated the same dates. She then said that this isn't her birth date. He persisted that it was, and that she should stop trying to fool him. She said she started to cry and ran to get her purse to show him her driver's license. That's when his face slipped. He tried to get out of it by making excuses that he wasn't good with dates, etc. But Becky just went straight to her phone and checked Facebook. She found his ex's profile showing her birthday. It was the date he would have gotten tattooed on his chest if I hadn't said no and also called Becky. My Dunbar's cousin would have ended up with the birthday of his ex-girlfriend next to his wedding date. Becky said he more or less told him it was over, and that this was enough. She started to immediately reorganize the whole wedding and honeymoon, while kicking him out of the house. A bit later, she called me back. She also mentioned that she didn't want to say what happened on the phone, as she thought I might tell my family, and she really didn't want to hear about it. Fair, I get that. Becky changed the honeymoon booking, and is now taking her best friend. Also, if you're wondering, Becky's dad is currently the owner of their house, as they agreed to slowly pay him back due to his financial wealth and stability, which made more sense this way. As far as I know, Becky is going to stay there. Anyway, that's the tea, folks. This was truly a wild ride, and I am pretty sure Becky and I are going to be good friends. We really hit it off. I don't have much dignity left for Matt, so I'm not sure I'll keep in contact at all. P.S. Becky loved my painting. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friend.